NBC Sports and the PGA Tour proudly present the season-long race for the FedEx Cup and live Wednesday coverage from the Truist Championship. We're on the range at the Philadelphia Cricket Club, presented by ReliaQuest. Beautiful conditions on the last day to practice before the tournament begins tomorrow. Might have to dodge a storm or two tomorrow and or Friday, but what a treat it is to see this priceless gem just outside of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. All the players warming up here on the range, and you'll get to see the best in the world in this signature event. With two of the best PGA Tour veterans, Susie Whaley and Craig Perks. I'm Taylor Zarzer. Sean Martin is on the golf course for us. You'll see him in just a second. We're actually kind of in Whaley country now because we go to Connecticut each year for the Travelers Championship. But Susie, that's really the tour's only stop in the Northeast, so it's a treat to be in Philadelphia.
I mean, I couldn't be more excited to be in Philadelphia, and at Philadelphia Cricket Club. You know, Jim Smith has been there forever, a PGA professional who just, exudes professionalism within our game. And then you have a Tillinghast track, over 100 years old, of course, a renovation in 2013 to bring it back to its glory. Mm-hmm. But this golf course is truly a different test than what they just saw last week. While there are bent greens here as well, those of us in the Northeast are a little biased. We think the bent greens in Northeast are a little quicker, a little slopier, and a lot trickier than they are in Dallas.
How's it going to play, Perksy, for the best players in the world?
Yeah, I think preparation's a skill. And normally when you get a golden age gem like this, you generally get it in a major championship. So guys get these recon trips and might go to the venue 2 or 3 weeks in advance. You're coming in blind. Now, These guys know how to prepare. There's no question about that. But man, you get this sort of an inside glimpse at a golden age gem. A.W. Tillinghast, really one of the most renowned golf architects in America, and the history of some of the golf courses that he has built, from Winged Foot and Bolter's Roll, and you go all the way down to Bethpage and San Francisco Golf Club and so on. This is a real treat for the PGA Tour players, and you talk to them throughout the whole field. They're just thrilled to be here.
It's his home course, A.W. Tillinghast. In fact, today is his birthday. He would have been 149 years old today. His ashes are spread there on the golf course, a par 70 gem. Well, this tournament typically is at Quail Hollow Club in Charlotte, but since the PGA Championship is there next week, this is why we're at Philly Cricket Club this week. If you flash back to last year, Rory McIlroy won the golf tournament for the 4th time. Some people, Jordan Spieth included, call Quail Hollow Club Rory McIlroy Country Club because of what he's done there through the years.
I mean, come on, he's won 4 times. He loves this venue. It's just set up perfectly for his game. Long ball strikers, precision iron shots. He's putting great this year. I mean, so easy to say, yep, Rory is the favorite for multiple reasons. But
next man last year.
Yeah, I think Rory's what's incredible now is he's sort of invented ways to motivate himself. Now you talk about winning here for 4 different times. This was his first victory when he was 2 days shy of his 21st birthday, and I'm sure he's thrilled to be at the Philadelphia Cricket Club. Can't wait to get back to Charlotte next week to try and continue this run for maybe a calendar Grand Slam.
He is a 4-time champion of this event. Max Homa is the other multiple champion of this event. And different from Rory, he's won this tournament on 2 different golf courses. He won at TPC Potomac 3 years ago when the President's Cup was at Quail Hollow. And he also had his first win on the PGA Tour back at Quail Hollow in 2019. Without a doubt, the player of the year so far in 2025 is Rory McIlroy, winning the AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am, a signature event on the PGA Tour. Said he showcased a lot of Scottie Scheffler that week. stayed within himself, hit the proper shot in order to win his first tournament of the year.
Taylor, he talked about he had never won really at a cathedral of the game, and now winning Pebble and Augusta National, he's got 2 checked off the list.
And of course, they would go to the Players Championship and win it for a second time. Required a Monday morning finish in order to win. With difficult, chilly conditions, too. Was able to win on that Monday morning at the Players. And then the relief of completing the career Grand Slam. Our colleague Frank Nobilo said he's never seen somebody lose a tournament that many times and then ultimately win it.
I'm still emotionally spent from watching that Sunday. It was an unbelievable year, but that for sure was the icing on the cake. And you think about Rory this year, you know, he's top 10 in par 3, par 4, and par 5 scoring averages. To your point, Craig, nobody's really chatting about it, but with the PGA Championship at Quail, him winning the Masters, as well as the Players, I mean, the rhetoric has to get really vocal and loud for the U.S. Open.
Susie, he's gone from carrying this huge burden for 14 years. Since 2011, he'll never win another major. Now, potentially, we're going to Quail Hollow. We're going to Oakmont. We're going to Port Rush. Literally could win them all this year. And to me, I think he's more complete. We've talked about the resilience that Rory McIlroy has shown. And go back to a simulator. He spent 3 weeks sitting in a simulator in New York City without ever seeing ball flight and just working on the golf swing, trying to refine some of the skills. He talked about he'd gotten too technical, he'd lost connection with the target, and now look what we've accomplished even before, just as the calendar's turning to May.
And I think what's so interesting about what you said about the simulator, you know, oftentimes people fear just their technical, staring at the numbers, will they lose their feel? Rory, being such an incredible field player, came out with that confidence and then could apply the feel to that technical skill that he got back.
I'm telling you, folks, I know you've heard it many times from people like me and analysts like Craig and Susie. If you ever get to a PGA Tour event, just go stand behind this guy and watch him hit this club. That one looked like he even pushed it a little bit to the right and still carried it 320 yards.
So I was out with him for a couple of days at Zurich on the golf course, and he was not feeling his best, obviously coming down from the high of winning, completing the career Grand Slam. And I was actually talking to him, and he said, yeah, I don't really feel that good. The way he drove the ball, especially on Thursday in New Orleans, was as good as I've ever seen anyone drive the ball. So obviously the drive didn't have any lingering effects with the cold. You think of a F-35 whizzing by. This is jet wash. As this ball takes off by you, it's just amazing. It's a different sound. You know, we wish to marvel at Tiger Woods. The compression of the golf ball, the sound of an iron. That's the same thing that the audio that you receive after Rory hitting a tee shot is without question.
And evidently, Susie, he's going to use this club a ton on a shorter course on the PGA Tour. It's just over 7,000 yard par 70, but he said, I'm going to hit driver on almost all the par 4s and 5s and figure it out from there.
Well, yeah, there's a 525-yard par 4, so that makes sense. But really, Tillinghast, what he does so spectacularly well is he's incredibly annoying with bunkers within places that you want to hit your golf ball. So it makes you think about it. You've got to take a little risk. Of course, with his carry yardage with the driver, he will carry many of those without fail.
Good point, Susie, about the bunkers. There are 118 of them on the golf course. That's the most of any PGA Tour event so far this year. There's the other multiple-time winner of the Truist Championship, Max Homa. Craig, he has gone through a huge transition in his game, a lot of adversity in the last year, but played well at Augusta National last month.
Juxtapose this. Rory talked about regaining joy for the game. It actually started back at the Zurich last year with Shane Lowry, injecting some of that happiness. Max has none. You know, he's made such a significant change. Long-time instructor Mark Blackburn was pushed aside last August. He's now got John Raton from Congressional, a lot of changes with the equipment. He has actually said it, and we appreciate his candor. Golf has been miserable for him, and he cares so much. He said he likes playing golf more than anything, apart from his son and his wife, but it's a hard game when it doesn't like you back.
Yeah, and I think all of us can completely relate, not at this elite level, but can relate to making some changes, trying to find your way, trying not to struggle. To your point, played well at the Masters, but he worked very hard with Mark Blackburn and certainly still has a positive relationship there, but just felt like he needed some switches, and he's trying to cover the ball more. He's trying to get the lower body out of the way through impact. Same thing, really, honestly, that he'd worked on before, where he would get underneath it. But just thinking about it a little different way by getting the arms a little higher, the swing a little longer in the backswing. And you know what? When he feels confident with it, I hope we see the joy back.
Yeah, I struggled with my driver in my career, and it used to be a strength for Max, and now it's really a weakness, and it's fed all the way through the rest of the bag.
Jordan Spieth shot 62 at home in Dallas on Sunday at TPC Craig Ranch. Now he's at Philly Cricket Club playing in the Truist Championship. We are on the range. Welcome back to On the Range, live at the Philadelphia Cricket Club, presented by ReliaQuest. Craig Perks, Susie Whaley, and Taylor Zarzer with you. Sean Martin has the interviews. We're watching a guy that has had a terrific 2025, now ranked in the top 10 in the world. Russell Henley won the Arnold Palmer Invitational presented by MasterCard. And someone that is as consistent as anyone striking any golf club.
Taylor, great quote from Russell Henley after he won the Arnold Palmer Invitational, which is now 5 wins for Russell. He said, I just tried to focus on trying to be really, really good at what I'm good at. So, you have this foundation, you have your blueprint, you have your DNA, thumbprint, whatever it is. Too many times we look at our weaknesses and we try and improve those and we neglect the strengths. I so admire that from Russell Henley. He's so accurate. He's led the tour in accuracy and he's doing things so well, but I'm going to try and make my strengths the rock solid. They're always going to be at the very best. Now, can I improve some of the weaknesses? Yes, but don't neglect the strengths to improve the weaknesses. I thought that was a brilliant quote.
It is, and it reminds you of Ben Hogan, who was so obsessed with the swing, right? And he was quite possibly the greatest swinger of the club ever, and he never neglected that. Even if his putting struggled at times, he never neglected his biggest strength.
Yeah, you see Russell there with Mark Blackburn. Started working with Mark Blackburn this year. That's the PGA Teacher of the Year this year, and also obviously coached to so many PGA Tour players. As we just mentioned, used to work with Max Homa. But I agree with you about Russell. He's just such a consistent hard worker on the basics, on the things that he does really well. And you mentioned his driving accuracy. I mean, gosh, he's been top 15 the last 4 years in a row, which is just incredible stuff. And he really swings. If you watch him swing, if he hits some more swings here, it'll be more relevant if we watch him swing. But, you know, so aggressively through the swing. And I think on this type of golf course, on a Tillinghast, you have to go. And I think he's a great pick this week.
I'm glad to hear you say that. I'll explain more later. He's 5th in the FedEx Cup standings, by the way. Russell Henley is, and now ranked 8th in the world. Jordan Spieth is coming off a top 5 finish last week. Craig shot 62 in the final round of the CJ Cup. Byron Nelson. The ball striking, especially off the tee, has been strong this year, and it was last week.
Playing a lot of golf, 5th week in a row. He's gone 12th, 14th, 18th, and then that 4th. It's that 62 he shot on Sunday at Craig Ranch was as tied as lowest ever score on a Sunday. We love the resurgence, and we also love his candor. He talked about, so he played alongside Scotty Scheffler, who we should all marvel at. Scotty shot 61, 63, and Jordan Spieth said, I shouldn't admit that, but Scotty's better than I am right now. You don't want to admit that as a competitor. And then he also said, inspired watching Rory did what he did at Augusta National to complete the career Grand Slam. Jordan will go to Quail Hollow next week to try and complete the Grand Slam as well. I don't quite think Quail Hollow is the match for Jordan. He has to drive it, but it's obviously a very long golf course. But I'm so happy, you know, the 5 months away with the wrist surgery. He said, he talks about that he's able now to do sufficient work where in the past couple of years he couldn't because of the wrist limitations.
And as you said about trying to complete the career Grand Slam, he congratulated Rory McIlroy when he saw him on the range on Tuesday here at Philly Cricket Club. And Rory said, well, you're next week. And Jordan Spieth said, yeah, right, at Rory McIlroy Country Club. So they had a fun back and forth there, but
I mean,
there's going to be a lot of attention on him next week.
Yeah, you see him there with also PGA Teacher of the Year, Cameron McCormick, his longtime teacher and coach. But, you know, I had a chance to follow him all week last week. He was in my group for PGA Tour Live. So I got a little, you know, up close as I watched him play, and I was just so impressed with his ball striking. Of course, the rhetoric is still there. He still made a couple mistakes off the tee that cost him more than they probably should have. However, having said that, like his short game, his putter just kept getting better day in and day out. His short game progress, I mean, he's always been great at it, but watched it. And then his bunker play, again, I keep bringing up the bunkers here, but it matters. He's such a stellar bunker player that I think you have to think, if his putter gets hot again, and he can keep the ball in strategic places off the tee. We all know he's going to miss a couple fairways. I think his consecutive on tour is 11 in a row fairways. That's not very good. That's like 165th. He's going to miss some fairways. But if he can figure it out on the holes that he needs to and can take the risks that he wants to, he's in the mix for sure this week. Now, Quail Hollow, I agree with you, Craig. I don't think that's a track that lays out perfectly for him there. This one, though, this one might just be the place.
Yeah, I just think we talked about Rory not being too mechanical. It seems as though Cameron McCormick and Jordan, they are just immersed in the technical aspect of it. Jordan did say the consistency is getting better, the mechanics are getting better, but he's a fun ride to watch. There's no question about it.
He plays at 12:15 tomorrow with Minwoo Lee and Maverick McNeely. We were watching Russell Henley just before that. Henley's off at 12:37 tomorrow. And right now, Russell is standing by with Sean Martin.
Russell, new venue this week, Philadelphia Cricket Club. What are your early impressions of the golf course and what it's going to demand this week?
Yeah, it's a beautiful spot, beautiful piece of land. I feel like it's in perfect shape, and seems like you can make some birdies. With how good the greens are. I don't know how crazy they're going to go with the pin locations. There's certainly a lot to choose from, I feel like. But try to go with my normal formula, try to hit fairways and hit on the fat side of the hole and make some putts.
Hitting fairways is one of your secrets to success. You're one of the straightest drivers on tour. What are your keys to hitting it straight off the tee?
Yeah, so for me, I feel like when I swing up on it too much, I start getting a little crooked. So trying to swing level, not a lot of falling back to the right through the swing, and just feeling like I'm moving well. So just rotating well through the ball, being aggressive, and I feel like that stabilizes the face for me.
You and your coach, Mark Blackburn, have been working on your setup and especially getting your weight on the balls of your feet. Used to have them on the heels. Why is that such an important key to your golf swing?
Yeah, just so I can move. I mean, for me, when I can move, big movements back and through, I get the most power, which I need, and stabilizes the club face. So if I'm falling back a little bit, tilting back on my heels, I kind of lose the face and flip it a little bit.
Well, it's worked well so far this season. Hope you have a great week this week at Philadelphia Cricket Club.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
He certainly has been able to replicate that quite well this year. And here's a man that just won the RBC Heritage. Justin Thomas is on the range at Philadelphia Cricket Club. Great to be in the town of brotherly love on the PGA Tour. Welcome back to On the Range, live at Philadelphia Cricket Club, presented by ReliaQuest. Hosting a PGA Tour event. It's hosted the U.S. Open twice, back in 1907 and 1910. Now hosting the PGA Tour. You think you like golf? You don't like it as much as Eric Cole likes golf. This is his 16th tournament in the 19th week of the year. That is the most so far this year on the PGA Tour. And if you swing it like Eric Cole, why not? Keep playing every week, right?
I mean, yeah, he really does truly find great joy in competing, because even where I live down in Palm Beach, every once in a while he'll play a minor tour league event just on a day that he's traveling through town. And I think it's so fun for him to get out there and compete against players who are trying to make it, be an inspiration for them as well.
And especially when you don't get to the PGA Tour until you're 34 years old and happen to win Rookie of the Year. I always look at, and I'll let you break it down there, Susie, but the simplicity of the motion. Looks like nothing can go wrong, but you dig into the stats, and I don't want to be disrespectful to Eric, because rookie year he finished 42nd, won the Arnold Palmer Rookie of the Year. 50th last year, he's 52nd. So an extremely consistent competitor. He's 122nd in distance, he's 127th in accuracy, he's 164th in greens and regulation, but 2 years ago, he led the PGA Tour in holeouts. This year, he's 4th in holeouts. So to me, he is getting a lot out of his game. And that is a real skill. I'm not saying to play, he doesn't play poorly, he plays very well. But when you don't have your best stuff and have the ability to score well, that is a real talent to have. And I think if you go, stats can be really misleading, right? Because you look at this golf swing, yes, he doesn't have a lot of power, but it just looks like he should never hit a shot offline, but the stats don't show that. And then to be that resourceful, have the ability to compete at such a high level consistently with not great stats is, to me, really impressive.
No, but I agree with you. I think stats are so important to the player to be able to diagnose what they need to take away from it. I think as somebody looking at just straight stats, it doesn't tell the whole story all the time, especially off the tee. You might be a yard off the fairway, and it's not counting that as such. But you make such a great point with Eric just about the consistency of motion. And I know we're going to look at his swing right here. So, you know, a couple things as we look at just his address position and setup. You know, we're a little sideways here, so we'll just bear with me. But if you take a look at it, you see he's got a pretty narrow stance. He's got a neutral grip. The hands are low, super close to the thigh, and he always has just a very tiny spine tilt to the right at address, really soft knees there. And I know from force plates, he's about 55% on his lead foot typically when he starts his golf swings. And as you just take it through the move away from the golf ball, there's that first position, position 2. The club head, you can't quite see if you can stop it right there for me. So just on that backswing, his club face is usually outside of the hands stay low, and then as he gets to the top, his lead arm goes across his chest, but very compact at the top. You can see the logo on the glove. That left wrist is in a strong neutral position. It's not bowed, but in a strong neutral position. You can see his hip has cleared back with a completely full rotation of his back. So you can see how that's turned and really beautifully. And then as he starts the downswing, his hands start to shallow and you'll see his trail elbow leading into the body. The club tracks through and all the way to this point in impact, his head's still over that golf ball, as you can see. The left hip not cleared as much as you'll see many players who have more of a bowed left wrist at the top. You would be able to see that right pocket dramatically already at this point, but not for Eric. His hands are low, the shaft on plane, the club face is square to that arc. And then as he continues to go forward throughout the golf swing, you can see he does have the release of the hands, whereas many of the really strong players out here, and I don't mean to say he's not a strong player, but I mean powerful, they don't use a whole lot of hands through impact. Their body is doing most of the work and clearing through. So he gets a lot out of a small frame, and to your point, just a consistent motion with his low point repeating over and over and over.
Susie, the sequencing is beautiful. He plays so much golf. I remember when I had the chance to play on tour in the early 2000s. I spent a great deal of time talking to Nick Price and Steve Elkington and some of those really good players. They didn't play as much, they didn't have to because of how good they were, but they spent a lot of time at home working on their golf swing. Eric plays. That's all he does is play. And so maybe you're not going to be as sharp week in and week out. And you talked about that great joy in competing. I love that statement. But so the stats can be misleading, but the sequencing of that golf swing is really beautiful.
Agreed.
Yeah, when he takes a week off, he'll call in to PGA Tour radio from the golf course.
He's playing another event.
Playing in a mini tour event.
Exactly.
Yeah, he just loves the game. Justin Thomas is loving 2025. He's had a terrific year so far that, of course, includes a win at the RBC Heritage a few weeks ago, his first win on tour in 3 years, his 16th win on the PGA Tour overall at the age of 31. He's third in the FedEx Cup standings and fifth in the world.
So when Jim Mackay Bones went to work for Justin Thomas, he said, what's the attribute you like the best? He said, this perpetual desire to win, right? It had literally been 3 years since he'd won, 22 PGA. PGA's next week. So to go out there and get that 16th win, and now you think of a guy that's won 16 or more times with multiple majors before the age of 32, Arnold Palmer, Jack Nicklaus, Johnny Miller, Tom Watson, Tiger, Rory, and now JT. That's an elite list.
Yes, it is. And you just referenced Jim Bones Mackay, who used to caddy for Justin Thomas. Joe Greiner caddied for Justin Thomas a few weeks ago. There's Matt Minister again. He's back. He's been injured. He did not caddy at the Masters or at the RBC Heritage, but the man we call the Rev is back on the bag. And JT said it as soon as he won the tournament. He said, I love Joe. This will be a special moment that we always share together, but Matt Minister is still my caddy.
Yeah, and you just love that. I'm so happy to see Matt feeling better and back on his feet. And I'm sure JT has this unbelievable comfort level with him.
He beat Andrew Novak in order to win in the sudden death playoff, and of course Novak won the next week with Ben Griffin at the Zurich Classic of New Orleans. Oh yeah, that guy, Scottie Scheffler, he's a winner again. Beating the field by 8 last week at home in Dallas. Those are your last 5 winners in the last 4 events, because Griffin and Novak won together on the PGA Tour. Scheffler is not in the field this week. Billy Horschel had hip surgery. Those are the 2 players that are not playing, but the 72 best in the world are on the golf course this week in a signature event at Philadelphia Cricket Club. That includes Tony Finau. We'll watch Tony swing as we are on the range at a A.W. Tillinghast gym on the PGA Tour. It's a look at Philadelphia Cricket Club. It's the Wissahickon Course that was opened in 1922. The original course, the St. Martin's Course, is a few miles away from here. That course, when it was 18 holes, hosted the 1907 and 1910 U.S. Opens. The 1907 U.S. Open won by Alec Ross. Donald Ross's brother won the 1907 U.S. Open.
You know, also have played the 1920 Women's National Tennis Championship here, which is actually now the U.S. Open. So they've had golf, men's event, and a women's tennis event. Going back to Rory, we wanted to obviously touch on his golf swing a little bit here. To me, earlier in the season when he went to Pebble and he said he spent all that time in the simulator, he said he was trying to get his right arm and his shoulder more externally rotated. He is hypermobile, right? He has this massive shoulder turn, and he has a tendency when he does that to get across the line. So to avoid getting across the line, he's trying to get, just think of it in a simplistic way, just trying to get that left arm or that arm extended, the left arm extended, the right arm extended as well, away from the body, so the club can't get across the line. He hits a hard draw, right, when he's full flight. When it gets across the line and he gets all that speed, he has a tendency to get a little bit more under it. We'll let Susie get under it. But if you watch the arms, they're just really extended away from the body so beautifully, and then he can go ahead and maximize that speed and not be concerned with the ball going left. So just watch the extension of the arms here away from the body throughout the backswing. And the club more set in a beautiful spot down the line. It's not tilted across to the right.
Yeah, and I think that's such a great swing thought for so many players that get across the line at the top, the shaft across that target line at the top. It's an easy way to make that correction. Just thinking about staying a little wider. And he also tries to stay tall in the backswing. I think oftentimes when he doesn't stay tall in the backswing, it also prevents him from being able to do that.
He consistently plays at a number that we will dream of. 185, 188. In competition, this is not standing on the range and trying to impress people. This is trying to get the ball in play. And at a close to 190 mile an hour ball speed, the more that he's online and doesn't have to manipulate things to get the face square. We heard Russell Henley talk about that, and it's a lethal weapon. And
he's a history buff. He loves the history of the game, and I know he'll be excited to play here this week. Sean Martin,
Tony, new
standing
venue
by
this
with Tony
week,
Finau.
Philadelphia Cricket Club. Talk about your early impressions of the golf course and what it's going to demand.
Yeah, it's a good golf course. It's cool routing. We don't play golf courses like this often.
It's cool routing.
Very old school. Not a lot of trees. It's a traditional golf course, but not with a lot of trees, so it's kind of different that way. But I think it's a golf course that's going to yield some birdies. You're going to have to make some birdies. I feel like this week the conditions are going to be soft with some rain. So big greens, kind of back to front, your traditional type golf course. But I do think you're going to make some birdies, and it's a golf course you can score on for sure.
We were watching you hit balls there for a little bit. What are some things you felt like you were working on in your golf swing today?
Yeah, I like having that shaft that kind of at 45 degrees just to kind of ensure I'm not getting underneath it. For someone like me that likes to hit a cut, having the club too far underneath isn't ideal to start it left. So it's something I've kind of been fighting in my swing for a little bit. So I just want to make sure I get the club out in front of me, and that's an easy way to kind of ensure that there's a visual there with swing plane, and so then I get on the golf course, don't really think about it, and just try to play golf.
Perfect. Great philosophy. Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, Joe.
Thanks.
Insight, and that is Tony in a nutshell, by the way. He's one of the kindest people you'll ever meet. He's 50th right now in the FedEx Cup standings. Craig was talking about staying inside that top 50. That's a huge number now on the PGA Tour as it secures your signature status for the following year. Tommy Fleetwood working on the range. He'll be in one of those marquee groups that Miss Whaley will lead us through on Thursday. Justin Thomas, Rory McIlroy, and Tommy Fleetwood grouped together at 12:26 Eastern Time.
Yeah, very similar station to Tony Finau's. Tommy dramatically threw the ball, tries to get that left tip, really working back, straight back, almost like he's crunching into the ground. This shaft is making sure that the club shaft stays outside on the backswing. And as he comes down, that he doesn't tuck underneath, as Tony had mentioned, coming through. So he's covering the golf ball with that right shoulder, with that right arm, allowing the lower body to transition that upper body move correctly. And, it's funny, as we watch really good players at the range use alignment sticks that every player at home can have in their bag, learning one of these setups that can help your golf swing is instrumental in your practice.
It's a wonderful tool to have. So not only, to your point, Susie, that alignment stick in the ground, several feet behind you, it allows you to get the club working on the correct path on the way up, but also on the way down. I used to have a tendency to get the club stuck underneath me, and I tried to visualize a wall or something that I would come down. So to have, knowing it's back there, to give you that feel as the club works down there is really important. And we just need to see him win on the PGA Tour. I mean, he's won 7 times over in Europe. We're waiting. It's 150 odd events. We're waiting. He's got to be the best player on tour yet to win.
I don't know how anyone could argue that, especially given where he is traditionally in the official world golf rankings. He's 11th right now in the world, but he's been top 10 for some of this year. 34 years of age. He's turned into one of the great all-time Ryder Cup players. And as you said, a prolific winner on the DP World Tour. I will maintain it will happen, Craig. Somewhere he will win on the PGA Tour.
Yeah, and much like Rory, you mentioned it, Craig, early on, that he got that, Grand Slam off his back, and I realized Tommy's not going for that. But I feel the same way about Tommy for when he does get that win. I think he's just such a strong player in every category. The second he breaks through and doesn't have to answer the constant questions and the chatter from us of, he should win by now. Why hasn't he won? He's going to win by now. When he can get through that, which I believe too, Taylor, that he will, I do believe he'll win more than once in that season that he does that.
5th at Genesis, 7th at RBC, 11th at Bay Hill, 14th at Players. These are all different venues. He's had 7 top 22s. I remember, go 10 years ago, talk about TPC Potomac. We were there. I was working an event with Lanny Watkins, and Ricky Fowler was in contention, as he was always in contention in the, 2016, 17, 18, so on and so forth. Something changed on Ricky on Sundays. And I think that happens a little bit with Tommy Fleetwood. He still hits it as well. It may be just, instead of it being 15 feet, it's 20 feet, and that putter betrays him so often. So just he's going to have to fall into one or go out and shoot one of those 62s, which he already has in a major championship, and just back into something and then just get it done.
Yeah, this is a cool little drill too. So this club is just right underneath Tommy's chin, just making sure he's not going too far forward with forward tilt, as well as too far down on that backswing, getting that left side to his chin backswing. Caddies are also your best drill aids.
These guys are happy to be at a different spot on the PGA Tour schedule. This one-off at Philadelphia Cricket Club, a great gym, and Ludwig Oberg has a deep appreciation for this place. Wait till you hear what he has to say about Philly Cricket Club. The Truist Championship is this week, and we are on the range. Our tracer technology is presented by TrackMan. The TrackMan guys are out there tracing all the shots. Why not talk to Rory McIlroy about where his golf ball goes? Victor Hovland sometimes gets frustrated with where his golf ball goes, even when he's winning on the PGA Tour. After winning the Valspar Championship, he had quite possibly my favorite quote of the year. It's still not great. Yeah, and still won a golf tournament while feeling that way about himself.
Yeah, I think you have to give him credit too, though. I mean, he's very insightful about the golf swing. He wants to know about the mechanics and what it's doing and why it's doing that. And I think sometimes that gets in some players' way. And if you think about his swing in 2021 when he was such a strong player, I always just want to shoot him a note and say, hey, let's just go back to the components of that golf swing, make life a little bit easier. But he's always working, he's always looking, he's always searching. And to your point, I never get the sense that he's pleased, even when it looks like he's hitting it really well.
Yeah, as Craig often says, go play golf, my friend.
I literally have no clue how he won at Valspar. Because here we go. I don't have control of what I'm doing. I'm thinking things that I've never thought before. I'm stepping on the golf course and expecting not to play well. I can't rely on my feels. I have to reverse engineer. Listen, he's inquisitive. He has this curiosity. He's a serial tinkerer. He parted with Joe Mayo. He bounced to Dana Dahlquist. He returned to Mayo, split with Mayo, with T.J. Yelton, back to Grant Waite. I literally don't even know how he shows up on a golf course. You have to have a clear mind to play at this level, and he is seriously one of the best players in the world. There's no question about it. But I literally stepped on the golf course not expecting to play well, and I missed 17 cuts in a row. To go out there and play well there at Innisbrook, at the Copperhead course, is just amazing. But it really is, it's. I agree with you. It's just amazing to think that you can have that sort of negativity and those negative thoughts, and to be always searching for something instead of just rely on what you got, man, and just go play.
He almost won the PGA Championship last year, and he thought about withdrawing from the event because he was worried about the way he was hitting it going into that event last year. And let me just say this about Victor. He takes all of this conversation really well. He laughs at himself at how he's on this constant quest for perfection.
Yeah, and he played so well when he was working with Joe, and certainly Dana, just an acclaimed instructor as well. Grant, of course, and Joe worked together forever, so he's not too far off in philosophies between the coaches he's chosen, which I also believe is important. It's not like he's revamping. He says he is, but it's not like he's revamping. But the things that I thought were really great about his golf swing and what he did back then was, the club head was outside his hands on the takeaway from the golf ball. The club face matched his spine angle. He had that bow that he still does in that left wrist and that strong left-hand grip on top of that, which was really interesting for where he was at the top. But on the downswing, he really shallowed out. The left arm worked away from the body, and at impact, he was really on top of the ball, clearing that left hip. At times, I don't feel like he gets there now. And it's interesting to watch here because he is currently doing that. But I think he just, to your point, is in his head. And maybe he plays best when he thinks he can't find the middle of the face. I'm not sure.
I think when you have hesitation or doubt, you talk about his rotation was beautiful, right? With the bowing of the wrist, and he would flatten out, but the club would still stay on the right angle. If you have any hesitation, he rotated so well through the golf ball. If you stall that at all, that ball's going to go left. He never used to hit it left. So just keep continuing. He cares, right? He wants to be more sustainable. But sometimes when you have that many thoughts, and he is grinding, hitting so many golf balls, you still got the learning to score is a real art for sure.
He plays at 12:37 tomorrow with Wyndham Clark and Colin Morikawa. On the same time, on the 10th hole, Ludwig Åberg plays, and he's standing by with Sean Martin.
Ludwig, a new venue this year for the Truist Championship, the Philadelphia Cricket Club. What are your early impressions of the golf course and what it's going to demand this week?
Yeah, it's really cool. It's an old school golf course. I had the U.S. Open here in 1907, I think. So it's
History lesson.
a long time ago. But it's a cool place. It's going to demand so on the front nine you can be a little bit more aggressive. You have some shorter clubs in, but on the back nine there's some strong par threes and some really good par fours. So it's a mix between some gettable holes and some holes where you got to be a little bit more conservative. But overall, I like the view of it and looking forward to a good challenge.
We're on the range here, so I wanted to ask you about a drill that you do. You said you hit balls with the palm of your right hand pressed against the shaft. Can you explain that drill and what it kind of accomplishes in your golf swing?
Yeah, for sure. I have a tendency to get a little bit weak face kind of going in my downswing, and then from there I have to sort of lean behind the ball and hands a little bit more. So the drill where I use, I'll keep my same left-hand grip, but I'll put the right hand sort of right here. And then from there, I'm hitting a ball where I match up the body and the face. So it allows me to be a little bit more active in my body, kind of get away from that lazy behind it and flip the hands miss. And it usually gets a little bit more this way when I start hitting it really a little bit better. So it's a drill that I use quite a bit, and definitely going to do it going forward too.
Perfect. Well, we appreciate the insight into your golf swing. We'll let you get to warming up for your pro-am and maybe watch you hit one or two doing that drill.
All right, perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to do that in just a second. We're going to watch Aaron Rai, and then we'll get back to Ludwig and watch him do that drill, Susie. This is quite the golf swing as well. Two-gloved Englishman Aaron Rai, Craig, has built quite the resume in the last couple of years.
Well, we talked about Russell Henley being accurate. Aaron Rai led the PGA Tour in accuracy last year. He's doing it again this year at over 72%. And, you know, he's very fastidious, a lot of attention to detail. And I like the way he goes about the sort of this simplicity that he swings with, and he's not going to do anything that he don't sort of go away from his foundation. The ball doesn't curve at all. It goes very straight. The great Mark Immelman once said about Aaron Rai, he said he's like a sniper with a golf club. He's that accurate.
Rai will defend his title at the Wyndham Championship in Greensboro, the last regular season event on the PGA Tour.
And you see him standing on an alignment stick there, Susie. It's something that Sean Martin talked with Russell Henley, maybe to just get the weight in the balls of the feet and allow the golf swing to be pretty centered and in balance.
Yeah, it's a wonderful drill too to do that. Gives you a great sense of feel for that, but also just a visual reminder of where you're supposed to be. So many alignment sticks today. This is fun, right?
Let's go back to Ludwig Oberg and what he was just telling Sean about what he's working with his right hand.
Yeah, so he struggled a little bit the last couple weeks, and for a player of his caliber, certainly you just heard why. He has a tendency to get the upper body too far tilted back to the right on the downswing, and what that causes is this massive forward shaft lean through impact, meaning the hands and the shaft are way in front of that golf ball, oftentimes creating a little bit of too much of an open face as well, and you get a little stuck there. So putting that right hand down the side of the shaft, which he didn't show us doing, but he would so you'd hold the club with the left hand and put your right palm against the shaft on the right side. That's really going to sync up the upper body and the club through impact. So you're not feeling as far behind it, not as much shaft lean because the right arm is keeping up with the bottom of the club face versus the grip leading so far forward. And it's really a great way for him to get back to consistent ball striking. I think it's difficult to translate that on a golf course, that feel. But, you know, he's missed a couple cuts of recently and certainly wants to get back into form because I see him as a major champion in the future, that's for sure. We just got to sync this up and sync it up quickly.
It's sort of tantalizing, right? There's no pauses, there's no hesitations. But to your point, he won Genesis, 5th at Century, 7th at the Masters. And then his next best finish is 22nd, the next after that's 40th. So we're still searching for consistency, and he seems as elegant as this looks and as perfectly, it's sort of like this generation's Adam Scott. You hang this in the Louvre, the way this golf swing looks, but he is misfiring frequently. And to your point about that right hand, he talked about hanging back and flipping it. You hang back and flip. I'm the #1 leading money winner with that swing, and didn't make any money at all. But you got two-way misses, and you don't know how to play the game with a two-way miss at this level.
As we said, he'll be off the 10th tee with Sepp Straka and Russell Henley on Thursday. I love his passion for the history of this place, and it's neat to hear all of these guys talk about coming to this place and playing it in competition for the first time. Philadelphia Cricket Club, the first year that Truist has put its name on sponsoring this tournament, signing a 7-year agreement with the PGA Tour. Of course, it will go to Charlotte next year and be played at Quail Hollow Club. Matt Fitzpatrick is warming up on the range, trying to find that form he had a couple of years ago. We'll watch Matt get ready for the Truist Championship next. We are on the range on Golf Channel. We are on the range at the Philadelphia Cricket Club, presented by ReliaQuest, 15 miles north of downtown Philadelphia in a little town called Flowertown. The oldest country club in America, created in 1854, originally created for the game of cricket. Wait till you see the trophy that pays tribute to that game. Englishman Matt Fitzpatrick knows about the history of cricket. He was walking the course yesterday with the Scratch guys, and Scratch's Dan Rappaport, who went to college with Matt, said, "Describe your season in one word." And Matt Fitzpatrick's one word to describe his season was rubbish. He does not like where his game is right now. The man was ranked 6th in the world just a couple of years ago, and now he's outside the top 80.
Yeah, 84th. He's 127th in the FedEx Cup best finish this year with Arnold Palmer, and at 22nd. He's unique in the way he goes about the things. Pulls it inside, and then there's a little over-the-top move. What I'm interested in, let's just focus on his footwork. To me, it looks like that left front foot is jumping out of the way. It's okay with a driver, but with an iron, sort of the heel is actually being placed in a spot and then replaced in a different spot. Maybe that's allowing him to get into his left side and rotate through, but I think you'd want to have less. I mean, again, these guys are on the range, so they're working on some feels, but I think if you're showing inconsistency, you want to be more stable. You don't want to have more activity.
You see Mark Blackburn there. Mark Blackburn's working with Matt now, has worked a long time with Matt's brother, Alex. And Mark Blackburn is a big believer in that downswing and moves towards the left toe, and then the foot pulls back toward the left heel. I think that's what we're probably seeing a little bit of working with Mark Blackburn, is getting the ground forces to go forward toward the left toe and then back. And oftentimes that's when you'll see that little hop. To your point, however, is that for everyone, when you're trying to make consistent low point contact with the turf in the same place every time?
I don't have a problem with a driver if you're trying to maximize distance. You're trying to get this to land 15, 18, 20 feet. To me, once your feet start moving and jumping, I took ground force, all that stuff. Yes, it's great to maximize distance. But,
yeah, and I'm just surmising.
I think
right?
that's really interesting, and it's the perfect explanation of what's going on. But
so if you watch here, he's going to go toward that left toe, and then pull back toward that left heel.
We see that with driver. I don't want to see that with a set iron.
Yeah, understood.
And Matt I'm just giving you my analysis. I think if we're trying to get this ball to the dispersion, think of Colin Morikawa, these guys that can get it 15, 18, 20 feet, your feet start jumping around with a short iron. I know you're trying to create a feel and trying to get into the left side and get the motion correct, but I think you could do that a little bit differently.
Matt did say that he separates the game into 4 categories: driving, approach play, short game, and putting. And he said there have been a number of weeks where 3 of those 4 things are working, but he just can't get all 4 of them to fire at the same time.
I do think the structure of that backswing, I'm not sure we can go back or not. I do think the structure of his backswing looks better. You can see he's working hard on width there. You can see he's limiting the wrist hinge early on. And you can see it's becoming more compact, the chest between the arms there. So it's interesting. If we were to think about what they're working on and we could dial in and hear them, certainly they're working on the structure of the backswing, I believe. And perhaps they have worked in the past on something as far as the transition concerned with the footwork.
But so those 2, to me, are counterintuitive. You're looking for structure with the arms, but then your feet are jumping around. Okay, you talked about Rory being real centered. That's what he does. We talked before coming on the show. What does Rory do well? He's really, really centered. I love the idea of getting width, but that with the shot previous to that, that heel jumped, moved 3 or 4 inches back and to the left. That's really difficult to connect the bottom, the low point of the swing. That's hard to get that in a consistent area if your feet are jumping around.
Yeah. I just think we see it so much more now with young players.
Now, of course, Scotty Scheffler's feet jump around more than
Not
anybody's, but
his
not
back foot.
Right, and you see a lot of movement after contact.
Yeah, exactly.
But I do think it's rare that you can go down a practice range, and when I was playing long ago, it was very rare you'd see turf marks, right, with your feet and slide marks. And today you walk down a PGA Tour range, and you're going to see a lot of it.
Thomas Dietrich, also a winner this year in 2025 on the PGA Tour, winning out at TPC Scottsdale. Just getting set up to practice here at the Truist Championship.
Thomas has really strong stats this year. Obviously, winning in 2025 at the WM Phoenix Open. His strokes gained are 44th, off the tee 40th, putting 34th, and we talked about this already. You can't just rely on stats to describe a person's game or where they are in the moment. It gives you a broad-based overview. But those are pretty darn good numbers. I think the one place that stands out is approach to green. He's just not close enough on his approach to green shots to probably break through right now, but TBD, because the other things that are important on this golf course, which is off the tee and making sure that you're finding the fairways in the right spots and not missing an bunker avoidance, is the putter. And he's a good putter. He's got a nice compact position at the top of his backswing, very neutral path. He's very tight dispersion in his golf game. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see if he can repeat from the WM.
These next 5 months in this part of the country, just spectacular to play golf in the Northeast. Bent fairways, bent greens, fescue rough, and 118 bunkers at Philly Cricket Club. Xander Schauffele will defend next week at the PGA Championship. He's come very close to winning the Truist Championship the last few years. Is this his year? We're on the range. We are on the range here at Philadelphia Cricket Club, and it's time now for a closer look at the finishing holes here at Philly Cricket, presented by ReliaQuest. The right approach leads to improved outcomes. Craig, these last 2 holes in this special routing for this week only are big-time par 4s.
Yeah, this one's 498, and it's just a beautiful look. You know, the fescue and the bunkering from Tillinghast are really some of the best in the world, and these green complexes are very challenging.
And 18 over 500 yards.
Par 5 for the rest of the world, par 4 for them. And you look at these bunkers down that left-hand side, they certainly are in play for these players. 325 to that third one, so 300 to the one right in front of it, up to a well-bunkered and protected green. You see those 3 right in front. That's, of course, to avoid when you have a pitch out. You certainly have to avoid those. And then as you get to the green, you just have even more trouble with undulation and bunkers aside. So it's going to create some drama, that's for sure.
Michael Thorbjornsen is going to give us a little preview of what we're in store for these finishing holes at the Truist Championship.
All right, with the reroute of Philly Cricket Club, a difficult finishing stretch here. 2 of the toughest par 4s on the course are 17 and 18. When you know that stretch is coming up to finish your round, what's maybe the mindset for playing those 2 holes?
Definitely get the ball in the fairway. I think with them being
close to 500 yards, could be playing into the wind. If you're missing the fairway, hitting in the bunker, hitting in the rough, it's going to be very tough to get the ball up close to the green. So yeah, I think the main priority is hitting a good tee shot, setting myself up for a nice approach, and honestly not trying to force anything. Don't really fire at pins if they're tucked. Just hit it to the center of the green, make your two putt, and you should be getting strokes on the field.
Sounds like a good strategy, and hopefully works out well for you this week.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sean. Thank you, Michael.
I feel like what he was really wanting to say was, I'm really glad I'm one of the longest on tour.
Yeah, Rory McIlroy said he's just going to hit driver down there and figure it out. Xander Schauffele has come so close to putting his name on this trophy. 2 years ago, had the lead in the final round. Wyndham Clark won it. Last year, had the lead in the final round. Rory McIlroy won it. This is on a different golf course, though, Craig. But I know he would love to win the Truist Championship.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, if you look, let's put aside where he is in the FedEx Cup standings. He's 67th, but he's only made 6 starts and showing some form of late. 18th at RBC and then 8th at the Masters, and then previous to that, 12th at Valspar. 62 consecutive cuts. That's the 6th longest all time. Now, we're never going to probably eclipse Tiger, but 142 Byron Nelson, 113 Jack at 105 Halo and Dow Finsterwall. But when he is at his best, and obviously coming back from the rib injury, there is not a weakness. He is as complete. Rory talked about trying to be more complete a player than he is, but Xander, after the 2 major championship wins last year, was complete a player as anybody out here, and that I just does a lot of things well, and he's pretty slight in stature, but he's got all the requisite power you need. The club's in a great position at the top. He's strong. He's got that heavy hit to it, and now once you break through those barriers, you now have this belief that you can go ahead and win as many times as you want in these major championships.
More swing from Xander, who plays with Hideki Matsuyama and Akshay Bhatia at 12:48 tomorrow off the 10th tee. Justin Rose came so close to putting that green jacket on at Augusta National in the Masters. He was thrilled for his dear friend Rory McIlroy, but heartbreaking to make 10 birdies in that final round, graze the flagstick in the sudden death playoff, and not win. Did everything but win the Masters.
Well, and you look at what he's doing. He's traveling with that van that has fitness in it and red light, and I mean, he's doing everything in his power to be as in good a physical condition as he can. He works on his mobility all the time, because that's certainly a place that he struggles, especially within the hips and the pelvis. That's why you constantly see him doing that drill to try to get that left hip to move, to go, to get out of the way. Most players are 34, 35 degrees through impact. He's like 23, always trying to get more out of that. But it's so impressive for how hard he is working.
I think, in my opinion, his career arc is underrated. He's got 11 wins on the PGA Tour. He's got 11 wins in addition to that worldwide. He's got a gold medal. He's actually won twice in the Philadelphia area.
Won at
He's
Marion.
won at Aronimink and Marion. Yeah. So I would not be surprised if he bubbled up this week and won at Philadelphia Cricket Club. But to me, the consummate professional, 44 years old, you look at the way his career started. He missed his 21 consecutive cuts. So the lowest of the low, he reached the height of the height. He's been #1 pro in the world. But go back to, Marion, Aronimink. He's won at Doral. He's won at Colonial, Torrey Pines, Muirfield Village, Cog Hill, Congressional, Pebble Beach, and he's won over at Royal Aberdeen. So that the game is world class, and it has literally been for 25 years.
Great call about his Philly history there. You know, a lot of men over the age of 40 have this unspoken frustration with Father Time. Perksy and I certainly share that. This guy is, I mean, he's sort of battling Father Time to a draw right now.
No, yeah.
At 44, he's in terrific physical condition and playing exceptional golf.
I mean, he's taking it extremely seriously. I think they all do, but he's taking it extremely seriously. I think of Gary Player, which I know is not fair because he's double the age, but
Yeah.
I mean, he wants to win major championships, and he knows that he needs to do that to be able to get that done.
Oh, yeah, and then there's this 45-year-old guy who also is, Father Time, I think, is frustrated with Adam Scott because he's defeating it so far, too. Just this majestic, elegant golf swing.
But I think that's the point, right? It's sustainable because it's so majestic and elegant. Very few injuries, very little dramatic motion during his golf swing. You don't see any reverse spine tilt. You don't see any spine tilt hard to the right through impact area, which causes lower back issues. So longevity for Adam Scott, because of the way he swings the golf club, it's going to continue.
Certainly one of the most admired motions in the game. The sequencing, the clean lines, the tempo. Something came out just released recently. He said he copied three legends of the game, right? He said, to me, Adams had one of the most technically, perfectly sound golf swing. So he copied, when he first grew up, Greg Norman. Obviously, both coming from Australia. Greg Norman was one of the best golf swings. So then when Tiger turned pro, we're going to copy Tiger, right? So, and literally when he and Butch Harmon, when Tiger was working with Butch and so was Adam, their golf swings were nearly identical. But we talked about this beautiful tempo, Ernie Els. So Norman in his prime, Tiger with what he's accomplished, and Ernie Els. So you sort of put all of those things. And he said that with Ernie, when his swing got out of sequence, and we talked about how good the clean the lines are, and it gets out of sequence. He said, when I needed a rhythm visual, I'd just go watch YouTube videos of Ernie Els on a loop, and that I would watch that going to sleep and wake up and watch it, and then bring that feel and tempo to the golf course.
Well, it's interesting he said that because a past champion of this event is James Hahn. And Hahn always talked about visualizing another swing. And I said, if you have to break the glass emergency, what swing do you, he said, this one right here.
Yeah, there's just no wasted energy in his motion whatsoever. He kind of raises that left toe a little, loads into the heel, a wide swing arc, a big stretch away, moves away a little, but there's not a whole lot of lateral back and forth, right and left. It's just easy on the limbs, easy on the body. And fun to watch. It reminds me of Michelle Wie. I think as a female golfer, I would watch Michelle Wie swing from when she was a youth because it looked so much like Ernie Els and had that same kind of rhythm and that same kind of tempo.
Give him a good putting week, and he has a chance to win any golf tournament, no question. What is Garrick Higgo working with? He's a winner this year on the PGA Tour. We'll ask Susie and Craig about this next on The Range. One of the neat things about these signature events that the PGA Tour created a few years ago is how you can play your way into them. Garrick Higgo won the Corrales Punta Cana Championship a few weeks ago, and that's how he gained entry into the Truist Championship. I do see that he's wearing a different hat today than the one he wore in Punta Cana, which was a Boston Red Sox hat. Now, I have no issue with that whatsoever, but I'd be very careful wearing a Red Sox or a Yankees or a Mets hat while you're playing in Philadelphia. Yeah, there it is. You know, they like to boo Santa Claus in Philadelphia. They'll boo anybody. You wear a Red Sox hat in Philly, you might get in trouble.
I couldn't agree with you more. Good choice not to put on the Boston Red Sox hat at the range today.
Maybe he'll wear a Phillies hat or an Eagles hat.
Doubtful.
And so I talked to Sean Foley. Sean's been working for him for a couple of years, and he said Sean said they went pretty heavy into a lot of change in the golf swing. They actually lost their card after going that heavy. And he said knowing that the career arc is a long time, he was having some injuries. But he said the last several months, I've tried to settle into now focusing on practice that is less technical and more suitable to performance. He also said he's an absolutely wonderful young man. I think, Susie, what I'm seeing with this little gadget he's got is just to keep the width in his arms. You know, the tendency, if the club shallows out or the right arm gets, or actually for left-hander, left arm gets tucked, elbow gets tucked too much under on the downswing. If you keep that stability or that radius within your forearms, then it allows the nice structure. Structure is so important, but certainly will allow for structure on the backswing, therefore will create that good width on the downswing.
Yeah, and you can see that trail arm. He's trying to get that in the backswing as he goes back. He's really pushing that backwards away from himself. Again, so the body actually is squaring the club face versus the arms and hands. So as he goes back here, you'll see he's trying to get that left wrist to really pronounce back in that backswing. The cool thing about the little gadget he's using is, I can't tell you how many students I have that I do this same drill with, but the ball drops, right? This is fabulous. I have no idea where to get this, but I'm going to find out immediately because it has a little Velcro and you don't have to pick up the ball every single swing as you swing through. But no, you said it perfectly what he's working on, and anything that can work on that structure, but also ensuring that that face is where he wants it so that the body can square the face through the bottom.
And at the end of the day, if you travel with a dog, it'd be a great toy for the dog.
I mean, really, I'm fascinated by this with that Velcro thing. And why didn't I think of that, Taylor? You know what? These things, I see them and I think, oh my goodness, why didn't I think of that?
You're jealous of the contraption. I'm jealous of the hair. Higgo, a multiple winner on the PGA Tour. They had a one-off tournament at Congaree a few years ago, and he won the Palmetto Championship.
I think it was just his third start as a member, you know, and then so now you've got this stability. You have you've got the 2-year exemption, so it allows you to, if there's things that you want to work on, to go ahead and do it. And then to lose his card, and he was splitting time between the PGA Tour and the Corn Ferry Tour, and then to go ahead and get that second win, certainly some validation.
Live first-round coverage of the Truist Championship can be found on ESPN Plus at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Golf Channel's first-round coverage starts right here at 2 Eastern. Some notable groupings that we will be following on ESPN Plus and on Golf Channel on Thursday. Thomas McIlroy and Fleetwood, that'll be fun at 12:26.
And not a lot of chatter about Minwoo Lee, and he should be up there in his picks.
Okay, well, here's your chance, Miss Susie, to make a pick on this. Looking forward to this coverage that we have of a signature event on the PGA Tour. You know, Gary Williams has his own show here on Golf Channel called Five Clubs, and I noticed that he's behind me in the picks, yet keeps taking shots at my Russell Henley selections that I've been making so far this year. So I'm already spoken for with my pick. How about you guys this week?
I'm gonna go with Jordan Spieth this week. After watching him play last week, I think it's time. I think he's ready. I think his game's in a place where he can do it, and I'm going with Jordan.
How about that?
How about that?
Rory McIlroy. What do we
Ever heard of him?
We won 4 of these. We're going to go 5, and then he's going to win next week, and then the whole world the whole sporting world be focusing on Rory McIlroy in the game of golf. That's what we want to see.
All right, so if he wins, it'll be a 5th time that he's won the Truist Championship. It'll be the first time outside of Quail Hollow that he's won this event. And then he goes to Quail Hollow next week, and you're already calling it.
It's just way too easy to pick.
Well, some of the strengths, the driver is a lethal weapon. Now he can take it over some of those lines at this A.W. Tillinghast course, cut off some of the yardage. He's worked on the wedge game. The short game has improved. Yeah, this is like Scotty Scheffler from last week.
By the way, Philadelphia this week, Charlotte next week. Next year, Charlotte this week, Philadelphia the following week. They go to Aronimink for the PGA Championship next year. So this little Charlotte-Philly two-step that we get the next 2 years is fun. What a treat it is to be at Philly Cricket Club this week on the PGA Tour, playing these beautiful bent grass greens and A.W. Tillinghast Gym. And again, today is his birthday, so it'll be fun to celebrate Mr. Tillinghast these next few days as all of Philadelphia comes out to watch on the PGA Tour. We always love bringing you on the range each Wednesday and showing you the best players in the world showcase their skills. And then, of course, bringing you the PGA Tour event Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And a reminder, Golf Channel and CBS have coverage, and so does ESPN+. For Susie Whaley, for Craig Perks, and for Sean Martin, I'm Taylor Zarzer. Thank you for watching On the Range here on Golf Channel. We'll look forward to bringing you round 1 coverage of the Truist Championship. All the best in the world. Warming up today in beautiful conditions. Might have to dodge a storm or two the next couple of days. But we look forward to these next 4 days, a signature event on the PGA Tour. It's the Truist Championship, and you've been watching On the Range.